configuration management using Ansible, right? So let me just add a title here. We're going to talk about configuration management with Ansible, right? That's what we are going to discuss today. My name is Amit. I'm based out of Bangalore in India. If you guys don't know, it is in southern part of India. I've been in the industry for 18 years now, and most of it is has been, on DevOps and related technologies. So you can, address me as Amit, and we are going to talk about configuration management today. Now we just have 1 hour, so I'm going to be pretty, precise and high level. We are not going to get into much details. It's just an introductory session. Maybe in the future sessions, if you could participate, then we will talk about a bit more detail on either Ansible or configuration management. Okay, so let's talk about what configuration management is. Let's say you are in an organization. Let me choose a different color here. So let's say you join an organization, right? And you have a team. For example, you have a team to support, right? Let's say there are developers in the team, right? There are QA engineers in the team. There are many other business leaders, decision makers, database engineers, whatever. So there are a lot of members in the team, and they're working on developing a product and a software product. And to develop a software product, the assets that you need is your a place to run your software, or to actually uh, to compute, to get the compute power to actually prepare your software, right? So servers, you need servers, and not just plain servers, you need servers configured according to your requirements. For example, the developers may require, let's say, 10 servers with 16 core and let's say 64 GB RAM. And in all the servers, there has to be JDK installed. In all the servers, there has to be, let's say, Apache installed, or there has to be, let's say, Tomcat installed, and then you need Git installed. So, you know, these developers require multiple configurations on multiple servers. Similarly, the QA team, they may not need JDK, they may not need Apache, but they may need, let's say, 20 systems with 4 gigs, 4 core and 16 gigs of RAM for testing the software that the devs are developing, right? So they may need Tomcat, they may need some test tools installed, and many other configurations. And similarly, there could be other team members who may need some other configurations. There could be, let's say, for example, a DevOps guy who may need 10 servers with quite much processing power. So let's say 16 core and 96 GB of RAM, and they need JRE installed. They need Jenkins. They need Docker. They need Kubernetes tools, or many other things. So what I'm coming to is, if you are a person who is going to support a team for their infrastructure need, right, their server needs or their software needs or any kind of infrastructure needs, then you may end up managing a lot of servers for your team, or maybe you end up supporting multiple teams for their infrastructure needs, right? Multiple teams, they all have their own infrastructure that they need, right? Now, how are you going to ensure that you can support all these teams at scale? Is my audio okay to everyone? Let me also check my audio configuration. Audio should be okay. Is it clear and loud enough for you? All right, cool. Okay, thank you. So I think for few it is a bit challenging. So please check your setup if you feel the audio is not that loud. Okay, so this is an important person. This is an important person who has to manage the infrastructure, the servers of all other teams, right? How do you do that? If it was a small number of servers or small number of teams, then you could just, manually, this person could manually create these 10 servers on AWS or VMware um, or Google Cloud, whatever, and then install all these softwares on those servers, right? So manually provision these servers and install the software. Manually provision 20 such servers and install the software. Manually provision such servers and install these softwares on them. And the development teams can then use them, right? But you can see it is at a large scale. There are 20 servers here, 10 servers here, 10 servers here. Initial provisioning of these servers is going to take a lot of time, right? Somebody has to manually create a server, log into each server, install the required software, right? So there needs to be an automation. There needs to be management of the servers at large scale. So how do you do that? You can do some sort of automation. And I'm not going to talk about what are the various options you have. You can write your own shell scripts. You can write your own Python scripts, but they have their own limitations, right? You need to maintain those scripts, you need to test those scripts, and only then you can automate the infrastructure using those. So what is the alternative if you don't want to write your own scripts? What you can do? So the alternative is that, uh, you know, this developer, instead of manually managing these or managing the servers using scripts, what he can do is he can use a tool which is called as configuration management tool, right? And then how does that work? So let's say this developer or this infrastructure engineer decides to use a configuration management tool. So, all right. So let's say they use a configuration management tool, and let's go with Ansible, for example, right? They want to use Ansible. So what this developer is going to do is this developer is not going to, well, let's remove Ansible from here just for a moment. Yeah, this developer is not going to create these servers and configure them manually. What this developer is going to do is he's going to write a desired state. They're going to define a desired state. Okay, so that means instead of writing or instead of doing something to get your infrastructure, this developer or this engineer is going to define what they want, right? For example, they can say, I want 10 servers with 16 cores and 64 GB of RAM, something like that. I want 20 servers with 4 core and 16 GB of RAM, right? So they define a state. And what they do is they feed the state to this configuration management tool. They feed this state to the configuration management tool, right? And what the tool does is it understands this state. So whatever tool we are using here, it's going to understand that, hey, there is a requirement for 10 servers with this particular configuration. There is a requirement for 20 servers with this particular configuration. Now, this tool is going to talk to your provider. For example, let's say you want to do this on AWS, right? For example, then this tool is going to talk to AWS. Maybe I'll just put it here. This is going to talk to your AWS cloud provider and then spin out individual servers as you need, as defined in the desired state, right? With whatever configuration is required. So this engineer does not need to manually manage these servers. This engineer needs to only write a state file, give it to the CM tool. The CM tool is going to interact with your cloud provider and get you the servers along with the configuration, right? Now there are two parts for this provisioning. This is called provisioning or bring up, you can say. Now there are two parts to it. The first part is to actually provision the server, right? This is the first part, to get the servers with the operating system, right? 10 servers with 16 cores, 64 GB and Ubuntu. 20 servers with 4 cores, 16 GB and Ubuntu, right? So that's the first part here. The second part is to configure those servers according to requirements. So, on these 10 servers, install this software. On these 10 servers, install this software. On these 10 servers, install these softwares. Maybe create some users, maybe have some files, things like that. Maybe install some services. So, configuration and provisioning are two different objectives here. So, the first part is configuration, which is this one. Sorry, provisioning. Provisioning stands for creating a new server or new infrastructure. And then the second is the configuration. Configure the infrastructure or configure the server according to your need. Okay, so the configuration management tools, CM stands for configuration management. Configuration management tools allow you to provision and configure infrastructure according to your need. Okay, and they allow you to do it at a scale by not by taking away the manual management of the infrastructure, and instead of that you can write your desire, what you want in your infrastructure, and the CM tool can get your infrastructure up and running. Okay, now for these two different tools or two different use cases, 1 and 2, this is provisioning, I would say provisioning, and this is configuration, right? For these two different use cases, we use different tools, right? There is no one tool which can do this. There are some tools which can do step 1 brilliantly, but step 2, bare minimum part of step 2, or step 2 brilliantly, but bare minimum part of step 1. So those can be achieved, but generally in the industry, we like to decouple them and manage the provisioning and the configuration separately, right? Now, there are many tools for performing the provisioning and the configuration. We already know, you might have heard of some of them. So for example, for provisioning, we use Terraform to create new servers. And for configuration, we use Ansible. You must have heard of Puppet or Chef, right? CF engine. There are many such tools, right? So I'm going to show you today, if you already have some servers provisioned, how you can configure them using Ansible to make it usable by your teams, right? That's what I'm going to talk about here. The focus is this. This is our focus, right? Does it make sense? Any questions? Okay, let's take the questions at the end if you have any. I'm sure you guys understand this, but you may have some questions on the details. So we are going to cover that later. Okay, now how does this work? How does Ansible work, and what is the architecture and infrastructure? How does it work? So, as I said, the engineer, infrastructure engineer actually writes the state. And now we are talking about the configuration of servers. That means you already have servers created on AWS or GCP or whatever. But now we are going to configure those servers for our use cases. So we are going to install some software on them, create some users, create some files and things like that. So let's say there are already three servers, let's say, right? So let's create three servers here. So let's say this is server one, right? This is server two. And this is three. All right. So this developer, let's say this is called S1, this is called S2, this is called S3, right? Sorry guys, I think there was some issue with my audio. Am I audible now? Okay, so let's say there are three servers, S1, S2, and S3, and we want to configure them, right? Maybe install some software here, install some different software here, install some different software here, right? Now, what we do is we write our desires here in this file, right? I can say for S1, I need to do these things. For S2, I need to have these things. For S3, I need to have some particular things, right? For example, for S1, I want to have Apache installed here. And I want to have a user called Alice, user created here. And I need to have, let's say, Git installed here, right? On server 2, I need to have a Bob user created so that Bob can log in here. And I need to have a finger package. There's a package called finger that needs to be installed here, right? Some for S3, we have something else. So this is the configuration that we want, and that's what we write in this file. Okay, now this has a syntax in which we will have to write if you want to use it with Ansible, and that syntax is YAML. Okay, and I'm going to show you how you can write that, but yeah, this is YAML syntax. And what you do is you feed this syntax or this state to Ansible, right? This Ansible is installed on some other server, let's say S0. On S0, server 0, Ansible is installed here. So this is your Ansible. It's also a software, right? So it is installed on, let's say, S0 server. So this is fed to to Ansible, and Ansible reads this S1, S2, S3, and what it can do is it can connect to S1 and configure it to actually match the state, right? It can connect to S2 and configure it to match this state. It can connect to S3 and configure it to match this state. Okay, the state is defined here. It is Ansible's responsibility to connect to these servers and get them to the state that is desired here. So whatever is desired here, these servers should fulfill that desire. Right? Now, how does Ansible do that? Ansible talks to these servers via SSH. Okay, SSH. So now it is this developers, this engineer E, let's call him as engineer E. So this engineer E's responsibility to actually enable the Ansible machine to be able to SSH to these servers, right? So this is part of a setup. When you want to manage these servers, you first need to enable SSH from Ansible to these servers, right? And generally, you don't want password for this connection. So you want to set up passwordless, right? Passwordless SSH, right? Now I'm going to show you how you can set this up, then how you write this YAML file, feed it to Ansible, and the servers get configured, right? This YAML file in Ansible language is called a playbook. And it has a syntax. I'll show you how you can write a file, a small introduction. I'm not going to go into the details of the syntax and various components, but I'm going to write a file for you, a playbook for you, feed it to Ansible, and get these servers configured. All right. So now let's get into the demonstration. So I have already created 4 servers. I have these 4 servers. Let's give them a name. Let's call it as S0 Ansible, right? Then let's call this one as S1 node, then S2 node, and S3, right? So now I have 4 machines, S0, S1, S2, S3. S0 is Ansible server for me, and S1, S2, S3 are going to be my nodes. Okay, these are all publicly accessible machines. So I have the public IP addresses and DNSs for all the machines. So let's first connect to all these machines. Okay, what I'm going to do is I will just give me a second. So this is my T0. Right. Right. So this is my Ansible server, S0. This is S0. Let's see, let's call it as S0 Ansible. Right. This is a server. Then this is S1, this is S2, this is S3. So for S1, let's connect to that. Let's connect to S2. Let's connect to S3. Right. So this is my S1. And then this is my S2. And this is S3. All right. So let's zoom in a bit also. So this is my S0, this is my S1, this is my S2, this is my S3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write my state file in S0 and I'm going to install Ansible on S0. And then Ansible is going to talk to S1, S2, S3 and configure S1 and S2 and S3 for our desired configuration, right? So first thing is, let's install Ansible here. So I'm going to become root, right? And I'll become root on all the machines just for convenience. You should not do in production, but just for my convenience, I'm going to become root everywhere. All right, so this is my Ansible machine. I'll just do apt update. And then I'm going to open the Ansible Ubuntu install. So I'm going to just look for how do I install Ansible. Pretty straightforward. So Ubuntu, and I just need to run these commands, right? So I'm going to run that only on the this. Actually, it also copies these dollar signs. Not be done. So first step, and then the second step is this one. So now S0 Ansible, this S0 server will have Ansible installed. Done. If I run the command Ansible, I should get some output. That means Ansible is installed now. So what I've done till now, I have now four servers, S0, S1, S2, S3. And on S0, I have installed Ansible. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to enable S0 server to be able to SSH into S1, S2, and S3 without any password, right? So it's pretty simple. What I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to create a SSH key pair on this S0 server and copy the public key from that key pair into S1, S2, and S3. Now, if you want to know more about passwordless SSH or SSH in general, you can go to YouTube and watch some videos or read about it. It's pretty straightforward. But if you feel a bit confused on how am I doing this, then I suggest you read something and watch my video again. Okay? But let me do that for you here. So on this Ansible server, I'm going to generate SSH key pair. So SSH keygen is the command to generate a key pair. And in my home directory, if I go to .ssh directory, you will see that there is a private and a public key created. So this private and public keys are like lock and key. So this is the lock and this is the key. Okay. So I'm going to put the public key or the public key here. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it into all the other servers. Should have copied it first. There you go. Copied it. Similarly, paste and paste. Done. So I have generated SSH keys on the Ansible server, copied the public key, and pasted on the managed servers S1, S2, and S3. Okay. Now, before I proceed, this is my Ansible server, right? And all these are servers which I'm going to manage using Ansible. So these are called nodes. In Ansible terminology, this is going to be my node 1, this is going to be my node 2, and this is going to be my node 3. Okay, so these are my nodes. I can also manage this particular system with Ansible, and then it will be called as also a node. It can also become a node. All the machines which are managed by Ansible are referred to as nodes. If there are servers which are not managed by Ansible, then they are not Ansible nodes. Okay. All right. So now Ansible is done and connection is proper. Now what I'm going to do is, if I go to /etc/Ansible, right? This is the directory which is created when we install Ansible. So Ansible creates this directory, and this is where all your Ansible configurations and code will be. So I'm going to write my code here as well. Now, although you can SSH from this machine to these machines, right? We can test it out. I can say SSH and S1. So if I say SSH and this, it asks for permission and I say yes. So you can see I can SSH from S0 to S1, S2, and S3. Let's validate all these SSHs. This is also working. And then finally this one. Right? It's all working fine. Now, although I can SSH from these machines to these machines, I can actually SSH to any number of machines, right? If there are S5, S6, S7, S10, I can enable SSH. But Ansible will only manage the servers which you explicitly tell it to. So there is a file called etc Ansible hosts. Okay. This is the file which contains information about which nodes are managed as part of your Ansible setup. Okay. So this contains the nodes which are managed as part of your Ansible setup. Just give me 1 second. Just trying to get my notes so that I have code ready. Right. So I'm going to define my host. Okay. This file is called the inventory file. Right. This file is the inventory file which contains information about which nodes can be managed using Ansible. So I said I have a host. I want to call it as web. And the address for that host is this one. Okay. And then I say that, hey, there is a database host and that is S2. So what I'm doing is I'm actually giving the host kind of commonly commonly usable name. So web database, and I say data store, let's say, Ansible underscore host equal to this one. So what I'm doing here is, if I zoom in, I'm telling Ansible that I have three machines: web, database, and data store, which I want to manage. And if I refer to this machine, web machine in Ansible, that actually points to this one. The database machine actually points to this one, and the data store machine points to this one. So Ansible, if I refer database machine in Ansible or database node in Ansible, it actually points to this one. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say. Now, let's zoom out. I'm going to say Ansible. I'm going to run a command called ping Ansible or ping. So what Ansible is going to do is Ansible is going to connect to all the hosts in my inventory file or the host file and ping them or test them. Okay, and then give me the output. So such kind of command you can run with Ansible. It's called ad hoc command. You can run command on the command line to interact with the hosts that you have, the nodes that you have. So this command has this structure: Ansible, then the host that you want to interact with, and what do you want to do with that. Okay. This dash M stands for module. Module are nothing but small tasks that you can perform in Ansible. Okay, maybe when we get into more detailed discussion, I'm going to talk about modules and stuff. But yeah, module is something, a small task that you can perform or interact with on the Ansible host. So here I say Ansible on all the hosts which are present in my inventory, run the module ping. Each module has a specific function. This ping module's function is to just establish that the hosts, whichever are referred here, those hosts are reachable. Okay, and it says, yes, the database host is reachable, the web host is reachable, the data store is reachable. I could also have said Ansible database -m ping. So Ansible run the module ping on the database host. Then it will only test the database host. Right? So you can interact with specific hosts by running such ad hoc commands. Okay. Now, there are various modules. I used module called ping. There is also a module called exec, I think. Or you can say maybe shell or command. Let's say shell. So there is a module called shell. And what shell module does is it allows you to run certain commands on this module, or sorry, on the host which I am referring to here. So if I say Ansible on database host, use the module shell. I can do that, right? But the problem is shell actually needs some parameters, some arguments, like what do you want to do, which command you want to run in shell. Okay, so I'm going to say Ansible database -m shell, and then I pass some arguments. I say command equal to host name -f. For example, if I run this command, the shell, okay, maybe not this way, but this way then. Just give me a second. Okay, let's keep it simple. Yeah, so it works like this. So I say that on this database host, run the module shell. And for the shell module, this is my parameter or argument. That means in the shell, use the shell module to run this particular command. So shell module runs a command on the host and gives you the output. So on the database host, run this shell command, hostname, and then that gives you the output, which is this hostname. I can run this on all the hosts. So on all the hosts, run the shell module with this command. So now you see the database host, I can get this, the web host, I can get this, the data store host, I can get this. Or I can run any command that is possible, right? So I can say print env. Print env is the command which prints all the environment variables on a system. I can say, hey, on all the hosts, run the shell command, which is print env. So Ansible is going to connect to all the hosts via SSH and print their environment variables. So you see here, for the database host, these are the environment variables. You can see for the web host, these are the environment variables. For the data store host, these are the environment variables set, right? So as you can see, we have already started interacting with a lot of systems at scale. Now let's say on all the hosts, I want to install, let's say, a package called Finger. So if I say, hey, on all the hosts, run the shell command Finger, I will get an output that Finger not found. There is no command called Finger. Now, Finger command or Finger tool can be installed using a Finger package, right? If we can install an apt package on all the Ubuntu machines called Finger, then we will get this command. So for that, I can use another module called apt. Okay, I say Ansible on all the machines, run the module apt. So apt module allows you to specify a package which will be managed on all the nodes. So either installed or uninstalled. So if I say Ansible all -m apt, I need to pass argument and I need to say what package I want to manage. So the first argument is name of the package. I want to install a package called Finger, and then state, right? What should be the state of the package, right? State is present. So I say here, use the apt module to get the Finger package in the present state. That means the Finger package should be present on all modules. So use the apt module to get Finger package be present on all the hosts, right? That's it. That's all needs to be done, right? This may throw some error. I know why. Because it says no package matching Finger. So it does not know how to install Finger because it does not have the package. So what I can do is I can first do something like this, apt update. So on all the hosts, first do apt update, and then I'm going to install package because apt update is required on all AWS machines when you first bring them up. Could not. Okay, so for data store, I think some other apt process is running. So on database, apt update happened. On web, apt update happened, but on data store, it didn't work. So let's run this on data store again. And it worked. Okay. So apt update is done now on all the machines. So now I'm going to say is use the app module for finger package to be present. Let's see what happens. Okay, so on data store, again, there seems to be some front-end lock missing. So looks like some other tool is engaging. But on both the other nodes, the database node and the web node, the package was installed. Let's run this command again. So you can see here on all the nodes it is installed. Okay. So just by running the app module on all the hosts and given the appropriate parameters, I could install the finger package on all the nodes, right? In this case, we have just 3 nodes, but if there were 100 nodes on all the 100 nodes, this package would be installed. So you can see how easy it is to manage the infrastructure at a scale using a configuration management tool, right? Now, if I say run the shell command finger on all the hosts, you can see here, oh, this is just on data store. Let's say on all the hosts, run the shell command finger, and you will see that now it runs the command and gives me some output, right? So pretty nice. Let's not worry about what is this output and what this finger do. It's just to demonstrate the capability here. So you can install package. So this is how you can interact with various hosts of Ansible. Let's go back here. I told you about this playbook, right? I have not written a playbook yet. So let's write a playbook. Now, instead of running the commands like this, we can actually gather all these requirements and put it in a playbook here. So let's say playbook.yaml. Let's create a playbook. And I'm going to write a very small playbook. To install Java. Let's say we need to install Java on all these hosts, JDK on all these hosts, right? So I can create a playbook on the Ansible host. And let me quickly write the playbook. And since we are saying on all the hosts, I say all hosts, right? And then I'm going to say, so under the task, we specify what modules we want to run. So I say app module, and the name of the package is OpenJDK-11-JDK, right? And state is so now I'm writing a file where I say on all hosts run these tasks, like ad hoc tasks, you remember? Run these tasks. So this is my first task. I give it a name and I say use the app module, and the name of the package that needs to be managed by app module is OpenJDK-11-JDK, and the state should be present, right? I can also add more tasks here. I can say install Git, for example, right? And again, I will use the app module. I say name of the package is Git and state is present. Okay. So on all hosts, perform these 2 tasks. Use app module and ensure that OpenJDK 11 JDK is present, and use at module, git is present. I can add maybe one more task, right? I'll say print what should I do? What command can I run? Let's say print current date and time. And I'll say this time I'm going to use the module called shell, and I'm going to pass the parameter date. Shell, run the command called date. So here I run another task and I say use the module shell and run the command date. That's it, simple. So now in this playbook, there are a lot of things that I will explain here, this indentation and all, these keywords and all. There are a lot of things that I can explain, but unfortunately we don't have time. But here, the summary is that I have written three tasks, three different modules managing individual aspects of the server. So all the hosts now will have OpenJDK installed, will have Git installed, and will print the current date, right? I save it, and now I run the command Ansible -playbook and playbook.yaml. So now there's a tool called Ansible-playbook, which will read your YAML file and apply all the configurations on the target system. So I'm going to zoom out a bit so that you can see more output on a single screen. So we always get this error from the data store. I'm not sure why. And you can see here now on the database and on the web servers, it changed something. So that means it installed the software. On the web and the database, it did not proceed with the data store server because it showed some error. So it did not perform the subsequent tasks. But it says Git is already installed. And then it printed the date and time here. Right? So now Java is installed on all the hosts. So if I go to this host and if I run the command Java, I get some output. That means Java is installed here. Right? I can now manage 1000 servers and install Java on all of them, or uninstall Java from all of them. If I open the playbook and I can simply say, hey, Java should be absent. Java should be absent on all the hosts. And now if I apply this playbook, or run this playbook, it's going to remove Java from all the hosts. Now, I was able to run Java here on S2, but if I run Java again, okay, maybe it has some other system installed Java. So yeah, it's running here, but yeah, it should have removed here. Right? So I just wanted to show you how we can manage a server and its configuration at scale using Ansible. I hope you liked the session. I hope you were able to at least understand what is Ansible and how do we use it. Of course, 1 hour is not enough. I give a training on Ansible and Terraform and many other tools. Ansible is like maybe 15 hours training where I teach everything end to end on Ansible. But yeah, this is just a gist. Hopefully, it made some sense. You will get the recordings for this session. And I wish you all the best and see you around maybe in the next one. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for attending and have a good evening. Bye.